Hi, everybody. Great to meet you. Now, ethical dilemmas are fascinating to investigate and often reveal deeper truths about contemporary education, pointing to how things could be done differently to benefit some of our most vulnerable students. The article I've authored, Can School Psychologists Be Inclusive When Delivering Evidence-Based Behavioural Interventions in Special Schools Behaviour Clinics, Units or Clinics, a Mapping Lit Review, investigates a deep ethical dilemma for practice. Some recent studies have suggested that school psychologists are increasingly involved in delivering evidence-based behavioural interventions in specialist settings, particularly to students who have been exhibiting challenging behaviours. This trend, however, has some concerning implications, which this article explores for you. Are such practices inclusive? Can they even be inclusive if they are undertaken in specialist settings such as clinics? And often with children who have been excluded from the mainstream education system on account of their challenging behaviours. Are school psychologists, therefore, and other professionals involved in delivering these types of interventions, upholding a segregated educational system by supporting these types of movement from the mainstream into specialist settings and clinics? Is inclusion even being jettisoned in favour of a return to older medical models where children with disabilities and challenging behaviours were exclusively located in specialist settings and clinics and outside of the mainstream education system? Are children in this population being treated rather than educated? So these are the key questions that drove this article. Now, of course, research often provides surprising findings. Arguably, that's part of its value. We learn things we didn't know before. And this article is no exception. Contrary to expectations, the review found, it questioned whether school psychologists are increasingly involved in delivering evidence-based behavioural interventions at all, and offered a more nuanced picture of what appears to be happening. Studies reviewed tended to advocate for team-based, multidisciplinary delivery of evidence-based behavioural interventions and in mainstream settings rather than specialist settings. Now, this delivery practice, this mode of delivering practice, collaborative in mainstream, aligns very well, arguably, with international commitments to educational inclusion made by Australia, the UK, and other countries in the world. So that aligns very well. The biggest insight arising from this review, arguably, is that it's a conclusion that evidence-based interventions and supports are perfectly matched with educational inclusion. And that for some of our most vulnerable children, this aim might necessitate more nuanced but still deeply inclusive practices and modes of educational delivery. For instance, at the end of the article, I refer to Project X, which is in some forthcoming research, Armstrong 2021, which is an innovative nurture-based delivery model where students who have challenging behaviour at risk of exclusion attend a nurture-based project for 2 days of the week, and then for the other 3, attend a regular local primary school. And the aim of their attending a specialist nurture-based project is to help them remain in the primary school and not be excluded on account of their behaviours by providing children with a specialist nurturing support they need to learn how to develop and maintain relationships, positive relationships with adults and peers, leading to a decline in the severity and a frequency of challenging behaviours that might lead to their exclusion. So In this aim, we're leading toward supporting inclusion, but with specialist, some of the week, specialist input outside of a mainstream environment, but only aimed to keep kids in the mainstream school who might otherwise be excluded. Thanks for listening. I really hope you enjoy reading this article and thinking about how we can enable some of our most vulnerable students with challenging behaviours and disabilities to prosper in our schools. Thanks.